Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, True Crime with Jess Rose. Having a little bit of a nightmare tonight with the laptop, so bear with me. I'm hoping it will go okay. Tonight's story is about, it's from a show called Britain's Deadliest Kids. I have done a couple on this show before. And I hadn't heard of this story. And I only watched it the other day. It's a new show. And I was so shocked because I hadn't heard of it. I don't know if you have. It's got a couple of titles: The Laundrette Killers or The Babyface Killers, and you'll see why in a minute. But it goes back to the summer of 2013. It's about a lad called Sean McHugh. Sean's 19 and he's from Walton in Liverpool. And you hear about him and he's a really popular boy. He's really sweet. He's only short, so his nickname's Shorty. And he's got a girlfriend that he's been with since school that he lives with. You know, he's spoken about really highly by people on the show. And he just seems like he was just trying to get ahead. He had this apprenticeship and, you know, he was just living his life. And on the 30th of September 2013, about 7 o'clock, Sean and his friend, what I forgot to mention, Sean was from Walton, but he'd moved to Anfield in Liverpool to be with his girlfriend, but he was originally from Walton. Not far, not a big distance, and you would imagine would make a lot of difference, you would think. But on the 30th of September 2013, Sean and his friend were going to the laundrette just to do some washing, quite an uneventful evening. And they get in there, and obviously washing takes about, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes. So they go to the shop, and there is CCTV footage in this laundrette. It's called the Liver Laundrette on Priory Road in Liverpool. And it shows him and his friend coming in, obviously putting the washing on. And they decide to go to the shop. Again, quite uneventful. But when they're there, they bump into a gang. And this gang recognised Sean from being from Walton, and they didn't understand why he was there. How dare he be there, more to the point. So this gang gave chase to Sean and his friend, and they got separated. I'm not too sure where his friend went, but Sean ran back to the laundrette, and as he's running in, he sees a woman. He hands her his phone, and he says, "Phone the police." And you do hear that 999 call. She doesn't sound overly frantic. She says that a lad's come running in and he's locked himself in the office, which is where Sean went, fearing for his life. She obviously asks the police to come out, says where it is. And what you can see on the footage is him running in. He goes to the office, locks the door, and the rest of the company. It does look like there's more than 5, but there's only 5 gang members mentioned in this story, so whether the others were there was just people in the laundrette, I'm not too sure. And you see them with knives, you see them loitering about, trying to get in, banging on the door. You can't hear anything, but you can see what's going on. One of them puts like detergent on the floor, so if he comes out, he'll slip, he'll fall, make it a bit easier for them. And all of this is going on, and poor Sean's in the back. Look, so he's only little. He's done nothing. He's not part of the gang. He's not gang affiliated. He's just living his life. And it's 7 o'clock. It's not late. It's 7 o'clock in the evening. He's gone to do his washing. You know, a 19-year-old lad doing his own washing. And yeah, you can see them desperately trying to get into the office that he's in. And there is a guy in the laundrette at the time who he said, it must have been when he was interviewed afterwards, he said he pretended to be the owner and was saying to them, "Get out. These lads have got no respect for any authority anyway." So he was promptly ignored, you know. You see the footage, you just keep seeing the footage, and you're just hoping they can't get in. You're just hoping against hope that they don't get in, but they do. They boot the door in, it goes in. But Sean had managed to get out. There's a back door, but he fell, and like I said, these lads did have knives on them, and one of them had a stick sword, and that was used, and it was plunged into his leg, went 11 centimetres into his leg, hit a femoral artery, severed it. And it was actually classed as 6 minutes of terror, because that's how long this went on for. And you see see where the laundrette is, obviously he's gone into the office, he's come out the back, and you see the alleyway, and there's just blood everywhere. The police footage afterwards, it's everywhere. And just think, this poor boy, this poor boy, the terror he must have felt in there. And on the show you've got a psychologist on there called Kerry Nixon, very good, and she says that in that position, any one of us, there's 3 things that 9 times out of 10 you would do. You would fight, which he couldn't do. There was too many of them. What was he supposed to do? Freeze. If he'd have done that, and they'd got hold of him, or flight, and they'd run. And that's what he did. He ran. He tried to get away. He didn't want any trouble. He wasn't out for trouble. He was 19. He had this girlfriend he was living with. This was the last thing that anyone thought would happen, especially to Sean. But sadly, Sean died 4 days later due to the blood loss. Now, you don't see his mum, Lorraine, on the show, like talking on the show, or Stephanie's girlfriend, but there is footage of them outside the court, and she just looks utterly devastated. I mean, what else would you be? This lovely popular boy. And when he was buried, there was over 1,000 people at his funeral. I mean, that just tells you about this boy, how lovely and well liked he was, and they didn't clock that. They just seen someone from a different postcode and thought, right, okay, yeah, you're gonna get it today. Now, this gang, when the police looked at the footage, was called the Linehead Gang, and they actually had rivals from Walton called the Walton Village Heads. Now, Sean, being from Walton, did know them, knew of them, and one of the members of the Linehead Gang recognised Sean. Looks like he wasn't in a gang, but one of the members of the Linehead Gang, the ones who killed Sean, had been stabbed a few months beforehand by the Walton Village Heads, and it was a revenge thing. That's basically what it was. It was a revenge thing, but they didn't even try and not find out, but they didn't even try and say, are they getting a gang member? All right, you got stabbed by a gang. That's horrible anyway. I'm not making that flippant. That's a disgrace anyway. But to go for revenge on someone who has absolutely nothing to do with it and just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, wrong postcode, it's just awful. Now, these lads weren't particularly notorious and known to police. They were petty criminals. They were antisocial. They were very young. This was their first offence, murder. Straight in there. And the 5 members of this gang was Reese O'Shaughnessy, who was 19. He was the eldest. You had Keith Dykstra. He's the one who got stabbed by the Walton Village Heads. He was 14. Now, Corey and Andrew Hewitt, who were cousins, and Joseph McGill were between 13 and 14 as well. Bar race, they're all under 16, and this is what they've done. So when the police see the footage, obviously recognise the lads. They need witnesses to come forward as well, you know, when they're getting evidence and stuff, and no one wants to talk. They hit a wall of silence, you know, like most inner cities, you know, no one's gonna speak up, especially against, like I said, they weren't a notorious gang, but they just killed somebody. No one's coming forward. And there was a lot of writing around called FTM, which was basically, excuse the language, but it's F the police, F the matrix, sorry, which is the police. So there was a lot of that going around, and even though they couldn't get anyone to come forward, these lads caused their own downfall. They just went for it. They were texting everything that happened. They were putting stuff on Facebook. They were telling anyone that would listen. You know, very, very proud of what they did. You know, even though it said that they might not have gone in there to kill him, they weren't remorseful. They weren't like, oh, I didn't, you know, that wasn't supposed. No. Very proud of what they did. Oh, he's going to die in 3 days. No remorse whatsoever. And the police, they arrest them all. They arrest all 5. You know, it said that Reese was kind of using the younger lads. You know, perhaps he was maybe trying to shift the blame slightly. You know, and the problem was, he's trying to find out who stabbed Sean, because they all had knives, but he was stabbed once. And none of them were talking. They all were pleading guilty. You know, they've all been charged, but they're all pleading, all pleading not guilty, all pleading not guilty. Now, in the other story I did, Sophie Lancaster, again, it was a gang, as we know, awful story. But Ryan Herbert, in that case, he did plead guilty, which kind of let the rest off. In this case, no one's coming forward. So there's a law called joint enterprise, and if it can be proven that a group has gone into a situation knowing, all members knowing what was about to happen and what the intent was, they can all be tried, you know, for the same thing. But they all pleaded not guilty, so the police have got to prove there was an intent to kill. So while they're in court, Sean's family are obviously, they're devastated. They're so upset. It's such a waste. I know when I'm telling these stories, I'm kind of a lot of involuntary, but it's because I get so frustrated trying to explain the story, the case I'm talking about, because when there's nothing I can say, right, it was because of the, I can't, there's nothing. And they were laughing and they were joking in court. There was no remorse. The judge had to tell them off 2 or 3 times, and in the end, I think he just left them. He knew the jury was going to see it. You know, he just left them. He left them get on with it. Now, these 5 boys, like I said, they were part of this gang. There's a lot of psychologists and people on the show that kind of I'm not saying they're giving excuses, but 3 had ADHD. 1 had a very, very low IQ, and they're saying he could possibly have had the mental age of a 6-year-old. They had no boundaries at home. They were allowed out on the street to work. Like I say, the youngest was only 13. You know, there was no real structure in their life, and so this gang became everything to them, and their postcode became everything to them. That became the most important thing ever. And so when they're in the court, I don't know if it's because they were in a group, whether they'd have been different individually, but there was no respect for authority whatsoever. There was no respect for Sean's family. There was no respect for the judge. Nothing. There was a lot of excuses given for these boys. That genuinely was, that I don't feel should have been given. I don't. They knew what there was only one. Now, I have watched the programme, like I say, if you want to watch it, it's Britain's Deadliest Kids, because to see this footage. And there was one lad in the footage, and he was a 13-year-old, and you do see him stand back a little bit and kind of start shuffling his feet and putting his hands in his pockets. He looks quite uncomfortable. And part of you, when you're watching it, is thinking, just leave, go. But because of that mentality and how they all have to stick together, and, you know, obviously he felt he couldn't go because he had to be there. He had to be like, yeah, let's get him. I felt like it was a lot of peer pressure as well, and it's very hard to understand, but it's been explained that it is their family, and they feel, because, you know, Kiefer did get stabbed a couple of months beforehand, they feel they have to retaliate, they have to get some. And again, Sean was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was recognised as being from Walton, and that made him, you know, fair game, and that was where they went. So they were all found guilty. Reese and Kiefer were found guilty unanimously from the jury. The other three, Corey, Andrew and Joseph, was the majority, 10-2, obviously guilty. Now, Kiefer, Corey, Andrew and Joseph all went into a Young Offenders Institute. Reese obviously went to prison. He was 19. He got 18 years. He got life, but minimum term of 18 years. And the rest got, between that and the lowest one, got 6 years, the 13-year-old. So, in effect, he could be out this year, that one. And what the professionals on the show are saying, that there's a chance, because they're so young, they can be rehabilitated. You know, we've discussed it a few times. We've discussed it with the John Venables and Robert Thompson, James Bulger. You know, does rehabilitation work? You know, can it have any? And what they're saying is the younger lads in the Young Offenders Institute would have a lot more structure in their lives. They would have bedtimes. They would have one-to-one teaching. You know, it would be very structured. There'd be a lot of rules. And it said that possibly through that, they would learn, you know, their boundaries and social boundaries and how to behave. So it's very hard. It's very hard, you know. In one sense, I don't know about you, but I'm like, you know, no, you were there. You knew what was going to happen. You might not necessarily have known he was going to die, but you knew something bad was about to happen. So, no, you don't deserve that chance. You don't deserve that chance at coming back into society. You blew that. 13 or not, it was proved that all 5 knew right from wrong, ADHD or not. And no, then there's another part of me that thinks 13, 14, you know, you're so impressionable at that age. You know, with their mind have been turned by the gang mentality, could it be turned again with rational thinking and, you know, like I say, that one-to-one tuition and learning what's socially acceptable? I don't know. I suppose we'll say, you know, when they do come out of this. They did say that the eldest, Reese, who was 19, because he's going to an adult prison as well, chances of him being rehabilitated are a lot slimmer. They have said that, with him being older, more stuck in his ways, got that mentality. And they do think, although it wasn't proven which one did it, they do think it was possibly him who did land the fatal blow on Sean. You know, it's not been proven, it's just sort of suggested in the show. So I don't know, but it just seems that the family got the life sentence, not them. They didn't get it. Eventually they'll all be out. You know, the family lost Sean, who was he was just, again, an unassuming, contributing member of society who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Very similar to Sophie Lancaster and Robert Maltby. Very similar to that case. Wrong place at the wrong time. And it's just so sad that that has to be the case. You know, at a certain point you could be somewhere and not come out of it. It's just very, very sad. And it does say in the show, you know, the country needs to get tougher on knife crime. And, you know, this was 6 years ago when this went on, and it shocked the country, you know. Nothing, it's got worse. So I don't get why nothing was put into, I don't know where this is a whole other subject, the UK knife crime. That's a whole other kind of conversation. But that is the case of Sean McHugh. And like I said, very sad story. And it's one I hadn't heard of. I hadn't heard of this one. And I just think, again, 6 years has gone by. And, you know, I do watch a lot of true crime. And the fact that I didn't know that one, I think that's quite sad. And it needs to be shared. It needs to be out there, you know, that these things can happen. And, you know, it's just very sad. It's very, very sad and a real waste. So thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it. And if you've got any comments or there's anything you want me to look at, please pop it in the comments. If you want to subscribe, I'd really, really appreciate that too. I'll put a link in the bottom as well. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me again. I really, really do appreciate it. And I'll see you soon. Thank you. I'm still here. I'm doing it good. I'm not doing it good. I am good. I'm so sorry. See you soon. Bye.